All right. We are back with a new setup. Hopefully y'all can see this. Getting it set up just so. All right. There we go. All right, so we've got a new setup. So now that when we're painting and we're getting into the details, y'all can see the door hanger a little bit easier. So just as a quick recap, we've added the cross, we've added the base coat for our blue flower. Now we're gonna add the base coat for our coral flower. So again, you can use whatever colors you want, but I'm gonna start with the coral flower alternating between the blue. And you can see that right there. And I'm going to just grab the same brush I used for the blue flower. And again, I'm going to add in. And all you're doing is basically, it doesn't have to be perfect. Adding in a little dot. You can make it a perfect circle. You can kind of add some movement to it and kind of move your brush around. It doesn't have to be like a perfect shape, because as we know, flowers are not a perfect circle. So there we go. Okay. All right, so we've got our pink flowers now, or coral. Next, we're gonna start on the cross, adding the flowers in right there. As you can see on this one, hopefully you guys can see it. I might need to move it, but it does have, there we go. It does have 3 of the coral flowers right there. So depending on how big your cross is, you might have to use a little bit smaller of a brush. This one is probably an inch size width. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add that in right here. And then I'm gonna add one kind of on top. Whoopsies. Okay, and then one right here. Okay. And again, I like it when it's a little bit organic, not a perfect circle. It gives it some shape and life and movement, and irregularity is good. So I'm gonna finish with that. And again, it's okay if you see brush strokes, because this is just the bottom of the flower, and we're going to be adding in leaves, and we're going to be adding in details. If it bothers you, you can always go back over and make it a little bit thicker. There we go. While we have the pink out, or the coral, I'm going to go ahead and do the bunny's nose, and all you've got to do is just kind of swipe your brush, the corner of it, and kind of curve your brush out like that with your thumb. Just take your thumb and literally kind of rotate your brush, and that's gonna make a little half circle for his nose. Okay, so we're done with the pink for now. I'm gonna go ahead and work on the blue flowers and finish up their detail. So it looks good to have some dimension within the flower. So we're gonna add in a darker color. I'm gonna add in a darker blue. Again, y'all, use your own colors. You don't have to do what I do. I am gonna get a smaller brush for this. I'll probably get, something like this. Maybe, I guess that's like maybe a 1/2 inch. And again, I'm just gonna dip it in here and add a little bit on here. You can make a circle, you can make it irregular, and there we go. All right, now go ahead and add the greenery. We're gonna let that dry, and then we can come back, and it's hard to tell, but I did add an orange in that coral flower just to have a little bit of dimension and another color in there. It is subtle, so I don't know if you can tell it through the screen, but if you want to choose a color and add a little bit of dimension and detail to your coral flower, we can do that. But right now they're probably still wet. So what we're going to do is let that kind of dry for a second. And we're going to go ahead and add the greenery over here on the cross. And we're going to let that dry just a little bit longer. So hopefully you guys can see the greenery over here. It kind of folds over each side of the cross and then a little bit down below, just to kind of tie it together. Things look good when they're in threes, or odd numbers. So we've got kind of that odd number going on right there. So I'm gonna shake these up, and you'll need like a paper plate or something to, which y'all have already been probably doing that, but something to put your paint on. All right, so you're gonna wanna take your darker green first, and what you're gonna do is you're literally gonna make just kind of like little tiny leaf shapes. You could probably just take your brush and then kind of just mash down, and it makes like an almond shape for a leaf. So if you want to do that, just put a little paint on your brush and land your paintbrush where you want it, and then just kind of bend it down and put pressure on it, and it naturally will make that leaf shape. If you want it a little bit bigger, you can kind of do that same thing and then drag it down a little bit. And again, it's okay if it's not perfect, because we're going to be adding another green on top, and then we're going to be highlighting it as well. So it's okay if it's not absolutely just perfect. And now I'm going to do this side. This is actually one of my favorite parts, is adding the greenery, because once we add the greenery, it just really brings it to life. It's so pretty. You can go as high up as you want. You can kind of drape it down. And now I added a little bit of greenery right in the middle right there, just to kind of connect those flowers. This one doesn't have it, so it's up to you if you want to add that. So right now I've kind of got my greenery laid out. We can probably work the flower greenery right here. And again, just kind of put pressure on the board and then just kind of bend it down, and just place it where you need it. And just kind of have fun with where you place it. You can do as many or as little as you want. So let's finish off the eye. While this is drying, let's go ahead and do his little eyeball. And so all I did with this is I just used a very light blue, or maybe if you want to use that same color as the cross, that's what I did on the original one. Just kind of dip it in, and then about where the eyeball would be, you just kind of do just somewhat of like a little line right there, so that it's placement basically. And then what we'll do is, once that dries, we'll outline that with black, and that basically will accent and just kind of be its eye. Okay, but at least that's there to give it dimension, so it's not just a black mark. So while all of that is drying, we can add in the detail. So on this original bunny, you can see in the fur there's some detail. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the white paint, and you want a smaller brush for this. Let me see if I can find one. Okay, so I'm going to use a brush that's similar to that. If you don't have something that skinny, it's okay. But for something where we're adding in detail, you do want a smaller brush. Okay, so I'm just gonna dip it in my paint and lightly just kind of make the same stroke over and over and over. And this gives it dimension. This gives it interest, it gives it detail, and again, you're just lightly brushing over it so that it gives it a look. Add some interest and some detail. When you get to the foot or the leg area, if you want to change the direction of the paintbrush, you can do that. And I don't know about where y'all are, but it's super rainy here, so it's a great day for painting. All right, so again, I'm just adding all of that. And this is another little foot here, so if you want to kind of curve right there, you can. And just almost done. So that side is complete, and you can do as many strokes as you want or as few, but I do think that the white, it kind of brightens up the bunny and it gives it some movement and some interest. So these little white marks really kind of make it, they finish it off and they make it pop too. Okay, once you get to the tail area, if you would like, what I do is I just kind of took my same brush and kind of just did like some like little curlies. Just kind of moved it in circles just to differentiate where the tail is and give it a little bit different fur. Okay. Okay, and then when you get around the face and the neck, I just kind of don't do as much so that it doesn't get bombarded. And you can maybe do a little bit of white around the top of the eye like that. Maybe a little bit like kind of around this corner. And then I do think kind of like maybe a little bit smaller strokes would look good. We did forget to add the mouth, so we'll go back and do that in a second, but we'll do the same thing as what we did with the eye. We'll just kind of add in a little bit of a faint background color, and then also kind of like some little whiskers. There you go. Now, when it comes to the ear, what I would do is kind of outline the ear with the brush stroke. And then take the middle part of the ear and just kind of do a little bit. Okay. Then same thing for this ear. We're just gonna outline the ear. Now it's really gonna come to life once we add the black on there, because the black is going to outline the bunny. This is also bringing it to life because it's adding in all the detail, and the black kind of does the same thing. So, all right. So we've got that. Let's go ahead and finish the mouth since we have the same brush. I just am gonna clean it off, and I'm gonna do another little light blue. You could do pink if you wanted, but just to kind of give it form the mouth right there. Okay, so what we're gonna do next is we're gonna add in the orange on the I don't know if y'all heard Buster. Someone just pulled up at the warehouse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose orange. So just go ahead and pick out your accent color. And again, same thing as with the blue. It doesn't have to be even like this perfect even circle. It doesn't even have to be in the middle of the flower. And then we're going to do the same thing over here. There we go. All right, so looks like we're pretty much done with the head area. I feel like we can go back and probably give this a little bit more green. So mine, I'm trying to see where the green went. There it is. There it is. All right, so I'm actually going to put a little bit more paint on my plate. And I'm just basically touching this up just to make it a little bit darker and a little bit more filled in. And if you want to do that too, that would be fine. Okay. So we got that. While it's wet, it doesn't really matter. You could do it while it's wet, or you can wait till it's dry. But we can go ahead and add in the accent color. Again, for the accent green, I like Citron Green, and it's Deco Art. And I like this because it gives it a pop, and typically I do feel like I put it on when it's still wet, so it's not so stark of a contrast, but it does kind of blend in too. So you can do that if you want, or you can wait and do it until it's dry. But as you can see, it just kind of blends in with the darker green. Some leaves are going to be brighter, some leaves are going to be a little bit more blended in, but overall it really has a good look. We can do the same thing. I didn't add the extra second coat of green up here, but that's okay. I can go ahead and add in this green right on top. If you want, though, add that second coat on there. If you prefer that. You could always probably mix in the like darker green now if you would like, and just kind of knock it out while you're doing both the light green and the dark green. Okay. All right, so there. All right, so that is that. I got that done. So we're pretty much at the final stage. And so this is where I'm going to show you what I do, but this is where it kind of depends on what you feel comfortable with. I'm going to show you a little secret. I always use, where is it? I always use this, and you can find this at Hobby Lobby, to finish off and kind of give the finishing touch and define everything. So if you don't know what this is basically fabric paint, but you can use it on like wood or, you know, these kind of materials too. It does kind of like, it's three-dimensional, so it kind of puffs up. You can always use that same skinny brush, and which is what the detail brush is, and use black paint. But I like to use this because, I don't know, I feel like it's a little bit easier, but it's totally up to you guys. But what I'm gonna do is I'm probably gonna pause this and then restart the last video so I can go dry this. So I'm gonna end this, I'm gonna dry it, and then I'm gonna come back and we'll finish off with the detail, and then you're gonna have a complete bunny door hanger. All right, so hang tight, we'll be back for our last video.